I have a friend, right? They raised $100 million. And I'm sure people are like, oh, he's so young. How do you do that? Me and him were literally sleeping in a co-working space together in California. He deserves that. And by the way, he was sleeping on couches and stuff even before we were doing that. We were eating $3 burritos at like around 11 to 12 so we could have brunch. And then at night we would go to free events to get food. Now he's raised $100 million. I live out of Airbnbs and hotels all throughout the year. Sometimes it might be a couple nights because I just want to see a city quickly or whatever it may be. For me, it allows me to have freedom of mind and space. Like I can end it whenever. And I need to be inspired by different things throughout the world constantly.
On today's episode, nomadic tech entrepreneur and distance runner, Carmichael Caldwell. Carmichael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So I would like to start with your life philosophy. You mentioned something about passages. Can you explain that to me?
Oh yeah, mantras. Because I think a lot of people talk about manifestation instead of mantras, right? I think manifestation is the vision, and mantras are the things that you have to say every day to yourself to brainwash yourself in believing you can actually reach your goal, right? Because manifestation is typically something large, something that seems unconceivable, unbelievable. And I think that the world does a great job of brainwashing you constantly, right, into their way of life. In order to create your own path, you must talk about mantras, right? And so for me, that's you are the modern day Renaissance man. What you create in your mind, you can bring to reality. And you are an elite runner with endorsement deals you negotiated, right? Those are things
Those are the things that you say to yourself
every day and write out every day.
You write them every day as well.
Yeah, I write them every day too.
So it's mantras for you.
Yeah, mantras.
You write them down. You tell them to yourself. When did you start doing that?
I guess I started a little bit of that. I don't even think I started it. My mom started it for me when I was a child. And
so it goes way back.
Yeah, way back. So my mom started telling me every day, you're a leader, you're a winner, you're a leader, you're a winner, every single day.
Well done, Mom.
Yeah, so like growing up, I think you go through a phase of your life where you nearly detach from the things that you did foundationally growing up. And then I don't know, I think it's like a rebellious time in your life where you're like, oh, I can do it my way, etc. But then you kind of start growing and you kind of look back and say, well, what helped me even get to this point? And you pull away at least some of the positive things that kind of helped you get to where you want to be, right? And so at first, like I would say in college and things like that, I wasn't really focused on mantras and all these things. I was honestly focused on like partying.
I would be very surprised if you said you did.
Yeah, exactly. I was focused on like partying and all these things. But then like, I guess, throughout my 20s, I was very, very focused on like career and like building companies and things like that. And then I slowly moved back to more mantras, like specifically focused on that, I would say last year. And
Why?
then
Why last year?
I would say I started digging deeper on like, I guess people talk about inner child work, right? I would say that inner child work, but also just, I believe in like having the imagination of a child and the wisdom of an adult, right? And I said, well, how do you have the imagination of a child? And what are the things that a child foundationally needs in order to dream and all these things? And then go on.
No, I was going to ask, why is that important to you?
Because I feel like as you matriculate throughout life, your risk tolerance becomes lower. Right. As a kid, you're saying, I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an astronaut, all these things. But then, I don't know, as an adult, most people typically say, no, that doesn't seem achievable. Like, that's going to be a lot of hard work. And so I think that if you have the imagination of a child, right, and you continuously dream, but the wisdom of an adult, you can still dream big, but be more strategic in your approach in achieving these big goals, right? So I actually have a tattoo that focuses on that specifically, of like unlearning to learn. I was actually challenged the other day about even the concept of unlearning. I don't think it's, I'm still kind of battling on that. I would say unlearning is good, but maybe it's just an iteration of thought, right? And so I study philosophy as well, a lot of Stoic philosophy, and like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and people like that. And the way they write is their thoughts are not complete. They continuously evolve, right? Even in meditations, you think about like how his thoughts evolve. Some of his thoughts are repetitive and then some of them evolve, right? And I think that's the same way about life. So when you're talking about unlearning, it's like, well, no, some things are good and you're going to continuously repeat, but some things are bad and you need to iterate. And so that's going back to like having the imagination of a child and the wisdom of an adult. I think that is what that really encompasses throughout.
That really, really strongly resonates with me. On both points, I think, and I say this often, that as a child, you learn. Your job is to learn. Yeah. And as an adult, your job is to unlearn. But what that entails actually is the process of understanding, opening a book and seeing all the beliefs that are within you, all the systems, all the programming that is within you. And that takes a lot of work and awareness, and it's scary. And awareness takes presence. But once you get there and you see this open book and everything that you contain, then you can start the process of unlearning the things that you realize are foreign to you, the things that you realize are alien to you. So yes, whilst we were growing up, we learned loads of things. And some of them stick because they're true to our core. But then some are completely foreign, even though all of them we learned in different sorts of types of processes. So I think our job in adulthood is just to see and pinpoint which ones are those alien beliefs and alien programming and just get rid of them. But that's also very hard work.
Yeah. And I think to your point, it's very hard work, and it's kind of painful work too, because when you are unlearning, you're kind of going against the grain of what you learned. And me personally, and maybe it's different for others, I think it also takes extreme amounts of isolation as well. I think you have to spend a lot of time alone, a lot of time away from sometimes even your loved ones, sometimes your friends, whatever it may be, because they may not understand like why you're fighting these things, like why you're trying to go against the grain. And then also it's very easy to go back to the old you or go back to some of your old beliefs because it's just comfortable.
I think that's inevitable though. That's the process of unlearning.
Yes.
Is you will bounce back to them. Yeah. And then every time you do, hopefully you realize, oh, right, this is why, in fact, this is not me.
Exactly.
And then it's every time it gets easier and easier to push it further and further away until there's that final release, at some point.
Exactly.
Has that happened to you?
Yeah. I mean, literally quite physically and literally, right? I created a lot of different boundaries in like family, friends, associates, everyone.
Can you give me an example within family, maybe?
Oh yeah, like so. Even like my mom. I would say my mom is a very critical part of my life because I think without her, I would not be who I am today. Right? Like she's inspired me so much. She's the one that put all these mantras in me, made me a dreamer, made me believe. But she also has like a lot of power as well, meaning like in the same stuff that she's allowed me to, like the same things that she's done to propel me, like any ounce of negativity from her can create a lot of impact.
She has a very strong impact on you.
Exactly. So sometimes, and like I think we all have this, right? Sometimes she was sometimes a bit negative. And so I literally just had to change that dynamic. And I think we're like...
How? Because you're not the first
mine
person
was
that
drastic. Mine was drastic. I just literally like ended large amounts of communication consistently, frequently, whatever it may be. And then I just also...
Was that an agreement between you after you explained why you do that? Or how did...
I think it was an explanation.
Have to be a bit more abrupt?
I think it was one abrupt and an explanation to like the entire family. Just so that it wasn't like, is Carmichael crazy? It's like, no, there's a method behind the madness, but it was abrupt as well, right? I think it was a buildup though. And I think for most people it is. It's like, all right, you're trying to push it through, you're trying to push through. And there's this small thing that happens and everyone's like, why did you react like that on the small thing? But it was just a complete buildup. And then you just have to make that because it's something in you that says, if you don't make this decision now, you never will. And most people don't because it is painful. It is a struggle. It does suck.
And the consequences of not doing it are far more grave than going through with it, which is life of inauthenticity.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't even want to chase being authentic, right? Because like we just explained, like, it's painful. It takes deep thought. It takes isolation. It takes all these things.
Very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable, right? And it's to me, I think, a short-term sacrifice for more definition for the long term. But a lot of people don't want to go through short-term sacrifices. I mean, it's like if you think about the gym, right? You and I both were talking about the gym. Like a lot of people want to lose weight, but they're not willing to change their eating habits. They're not willing to go to the gym consistently, right? So they know they have these big visions. They know they want to be the best version of themselves. They know they want to be authentic, but the timeline to do it just seems too great for them. So they don't actually want it bad enough, right?
Well,
So
now we can delve deeper as to why that happens, which is surely because their identity is linked to a different vision of who they are.
Yeah.
So perhaps they say to themselves, oh, I would love to be, that kind of a person that, is in this shape and sticks to these goals, etc. But actually what they believe they are is exactly the opposite. And that's the reason why they don't take action on that.
Yeah. And that's why the mantras are so important, because it is the brainwashing to feel like, one, you deserve it, and two, you are the person you're looking to become.
So interesting that you use this word brainwashing. I like that you did, because in the end of the day, it's very clear, I think, to everybody that, we're being brainwashed daily. All the impulses, all the ads, all the social media, messages from other people, radio, parents, friends. We're consuming this information and processing it constantly. So why on earth wouldn't we proactively program ourselves and brainwash ourselves with the things that are beneficial to us, that are directed to us being able to achieve the goals that we want to achieve and become the people that we want to become? It's like super obvious, right?
Yeah.
When we say that, but yet not everybody does that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that should be taught very early on, and amazing that your mother did that to you.
For sure. And by the way, my mom never let me watch TV growing up as well. You know what I mean? So, because it's like, now I might have a TV in a hotel room or wherever, and I never even cut it on. In fact, I forget it's even there, or it's something that people do. I never, ever watch TV. There's so many things to see, like a museum, just walk, especially in London, like just walking around the city, you can see so much, or just being in deep thought, right? So I think a lot of times people aren't even giving, like, it sounds simple, but a lot of people aren't even giving their life thought, right?
Yeah.
They allow life to happen to it instead of thinking strategically about it in order to make any meaningful strides.
Yeah.
So
I have this very love-hate relationship with TV. So I stopped watching it when I was 15. I had gone on a travel for a month visiting my sister in Spain, and I missed all of my favorite episodes of Prison Break and Dr. House. And after that, I never kind of watched TV again. Of course, there's computer, you have your Netflix, etc. But I always feel guilty whenever I actually do watch some TV, unless it's a documentary or something. I feel very guilty because I think, well, whose narrative am I watching?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better to invest this time into building my life so that my life becomes like a movie that I want?
Yes, we are on the same page.
Rather than,
it's the same, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would I watch a movie when I can create the movie? Like, I tell all my friends, I'm like, you must live life as if it's a movie every single day. Like, you can literally create and paint whatever scene you want. Just live life as if it's a movie. In fact, I have friends now, going back to the brainwashing and movie and all this type stuff, and creating too. Like, by the time you're watching TV, you can just create the life you want,
it's taking the responsibility of creating your own life's movie.
Literally,
is scary, and
yes.
I think that's why people don't do it.
Yeah, well, it's scary because now you're held like accountable to actually doing it. But this is like, so to my friends, I'm texting them like one of my friends, Toyney, he was my roommate in college, and I'm texting him crazy stuff, right? I'm like, out of the blue as well. I'm just like, hey, there's a plane that I said, there's a sprinter coming to pick you up to the helicopter. The helicopter will take you to the jet. We're about to do a Nike release in Kenya with Kipchoge for the new Nike Nomad shoes that just released for me, right? And
is that?
Well, that's not really, that hasn't really happened.
I was living the vision.
Yeah, this is the thing. But it's like, it's going to happen, right? Because like what I create in my mind will become a reality, right? But so when I would first text him crazy stuff like this, he's like, "Oh, you're crazy." I said, "Hey man, like,
watch this."
No. I said respectfully, don't ever tell me I'm crazy. The only way you can respond is if you're in the movie itself. Just tell me, okay, I'm going to the airport. I need you to be a part of the movie. That's it. And so like in creating these scenes, right? My mom even said sometimes, she's like, you're living in a fantasy world, but I'm not. Well, maybe I am, but you have to create a fantasy world and then it becomes a reality.
Amen.
That's it.
Every single thing that exists around us, every single product, house, building, book, whatever it is, it was first conceptualized and idealized in somebody's head.
Exactly.
Period.
That's it. That's it. So you can literally do whatever you want. And I think that if people get into that creative mode, I keep saying this, right? Because lately I've been thinking about this. Like for you and I, right? We're like, oh yes, dream, that's great, etc. But I think we're also willing to put the work in, right? We know that with big visions comes like a large amount of work as well. A lot of people, going back to the gym example, they have the big vision, but not the big work, right? So that's why we love creating. We're like, because we're also just addicted to the process, right? So like we were talking about philosophies earlier, and I was talking about mantras, and I was talking about manifestation. And so like part of that mantra too is like, I live by like 2%, like better every day. Everybody talks about 1%.
Yeah, I was looked at that as well. I was like, isn't that a lot like 1%?
It is.
What's the difference?
But so 2% is do more than what's expected, but you have to still make sure it's sustainable, right? A lot of people go 0 to 100 for a week, and then they stop. Like what was the point, right? If you can just do more than what's expected every day, but still make sure it's sustainable, then you just keep making progress. And so everyone's like, what's the goal, right? But for me, with 2%, it's like there's like the only goal is progress, right? Because I think life is an infinite game. And I was watching some like show or documentary or something. Maybe it was a documentary because I don't know, like, or YouTube something, right? And it was like what's that? Like a TED Talk or something?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was a TED Talk. And I forgot who said it, but the guy was like, life is an infinite game. And I was like, this is exactly what 2% better represents. It's just progress every single day, right? As you get more exposure, you have bigger visions. As those visions get closer, you're like, let me do something more, right? You just constantly keep making progress towards these goals.
I'm glad that you're saying that, because this is the sentiment that I've had for a very long time, for many years, over a decade. And it was very hard to formulate and explain that to my friends and, family when they would be asking, okay, so, what do you want to do? And I would just say, I just want to be better.
That's literally it.
I just want to be better. I just always want to progress. And it's so funny how it actually doesn't matter as human beings what it is we're working towards, as long as we are challenging ourselves and as long as we are seeing this progress. Whenever that is lacking, I'm not going to say it's a depression, but it's a very dreadful feeling. It's a very lousy feeling when you're just stagnant, especially if you're stagnant for your own fault, because of your own fault, because you're lagging, because you're holding back.
Exactly. Because you feel like, man, I'm not really reaching
but I
my
could,
full potential,
which is the worst.
But I have the capability to.
Yeah,
that's
bad.
That's bad. That's
okay,
bad.
Talking about potential and capabilities, walk me a little bit through your professional journey, through your career journey.
Oh yeah. So my career journey. So I started in consumer products. So I like when I first started, we used to always just say like I sell like dead chicken, and literally I did.
What?
I sell dead chicken.
Dead chicken.
Yeah. Like actual food, right?
Okay.
So it was a company in America called, Tyson Foods. And so at Tyson Foods, I was like a salesman or sales rep initially. So when I was a sales rep, I was on our Walmart account, and we were just literally selling chicken packages to Walmart. Obviously on a much larger scale than like going in there and selling chicken. But that was my job. So I moved up in the company, quite quickly. To a regional sales manager. I had like 3 promotions in a year and a half. It was cool. Like I had like car allowance. I bought like different real estate properties and all that, but I was 23, and it was cool. But in America, that's like the American dream. And I said, if the American dream was this easy,
you're American.
Yeah, I'm American. Mm-hmm. So I was like, if the American dream was this easy to like
what else
accomplish, like there must be much more to this thing. So then I was working like very late at night on like this company called Minty. And so Minty was a software that connected university students to alumni to aid in mentorship, right? So I quit my job I
had to connect you to somebody.
Oh, perfect.
We'll talk about that later.
Definitely. So I quit my job at like 23. And I went to live on my friend's couch in New York. And I told him I would pay him like $400 a month. And like this guy changed my life to me.
Okay.
Well, two of them, right? My friend Mundo and my friend Christian. I am probably forever indebted to them because I think they actually believed in me when maybe I didn't even believe in myself. I just had like a vision, right? I guess maybe
What
I
was
believed
the
in
vision?
well, in that time, it was like, all right, I'm gonna build Minty into like something crazy, like Facebook or something, right? Every entrepreneur, especially when you're young, you're like, oh, this is gonna be crazy. This is the
This is gonna
next
be the
big
next
thing.
Google.
Exactly. So I just went there. I was living on his couch for a bit, but I didn't want to stay there for forever, right? And I was trying to make some money and get investment and like all these things. So lived there for a bit. Ended up getting some investors out of San Francisco to invest in the company, like different resources, capital, all that type stuff. It was Google Ventures and then GSV Labs out of the Bay Area. So ended up moving to San Francisco to work on that company. It did not turn out to be Google, unfortunately, but we have more shots on goal, so that's okay.
Okay, biggest lesson you learned from that journey?
That lesson was like a lot of different things. Like in the early stages, I had a co-founder that was like one of my really good friends. I think me and him were probably the smartest people in our class, like in college for like economics. That's what I studied. And so we joined in, right? But we were also in two different life phases as well. And I think we didn't set the expectations right from one another, and we should have, right? And I should have understood more about
what were the differences.
So he had like a kid, right? He was leaving his job at that time. I was leaving my job as well. That was the thing. But there was and our working styles were different. He was more like very research focused and like wanted to have very clear alignment on things, which I think is actually incredibly good. Me, if I have 70% of it, I'm going to make it look like I have 100, right? I'm just a throw it against the wall and see if it sticks kind of person. And so I think we should have talked a bit more and to like how those things complemented each other. But I don't believe we even had that insight because we were coming from corporate backgrounds, right? And so we didn't even know how do we work independently without like a company behind us, except we are the company. I think that was one. Two, really kind of I started to go head to head with the company that actually wanted to like buy me, not just the company at that time, but like I guess some of the assets and things like that. But wanted me to join their team. They raised like 7 million at that time, and they were three people or something like that. So that I probably should have just taken that opportunity. But then again, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have because I've done all this other stuff.
Hindsight,
hindsight, right? But I think I should have like looked at in that opportunity, in that moment. I should have looked at the landscape a bit more. With universities, they typically are buying what other universities buy. They're not that focused on the technology and innovation and all these things. They had a very good hold on the market. In that time, we were going head to head on a lot of contracts, and a lot of people said our technology was like better than theirs in some places. And so I was like, all right, great. Let's like just compete. And I realized the fact that they had a lot of great company or great universities signed up already. A lot of the universities just signed up even if they didn't like the technology, which their technology started to become like much better. Just because other schools were doing it. And it's like, it's also
so understanding the market psychology and also not getting into unnecessary competitiveness by default.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then I would say like understanding your co-founders like skill sets and kind of how you all work best, especially thinking about like how do you work independently. A lot of people are quitting jobs in order to start companies, and they've never actually worked without like a company or a manager or different resources and all those type things. I also like got office space, right? Which I think was actually a good thing. I was working out of WeWork before it was like even cool, I would say. And so we were working out of WeWork. We got really cool like discounts and all this stuff because they couldn't fill spaces. It was like at that time with WeWork. But I would say you can negotiate like office space and all this stuff. And there's no reason. Rates. You can negotiate rates. You can find spaces that will allow you to work there nearly for free. But I think at that time it was really great because I was like entering a new space from selling dead chicken to technology, which is drastically different. So it allowed me to meet a lot of people. A guy that I look up to, he's been a client of mine and all these things as well. I met him through the space. So.
Okay, so chicken to technology to then what?
Chicken to technology to, I'm still doing technology stuff, but then now like entering athlete mode, I would say.
Okay.
So becoming an athlete, trying to do more stuff in health and wellness as well.
Would you classify that as career rather than?
I would say yes now, only because I didn't realize how much opportunity there is for athletes now in this space, right?
Okay, let's delve deeper into that. How does fitness become a career for somebody that's not a born athlete?
Yeah, I think one, like content creation, a lot of people, and I guess this like content in general, right? But finding a niche is critical. So I think from like a content creation standpoint, somebody's going to resonate with you in some capacity, right? You don't have to be the fastest runner. You don't have to be the most fit person.
Okay, let's give a little bit of context. So you kept doing tech.
Yeah.
And then where are you with tech and how do you transition into
so
athletics?
Right now with tech, I just have a B2B sales consulting firm. So we help companies with go-to-market strategy, and then also with sales development reps, helping them like scale their sales teams or sell their products to different entities. So that's what, like in sales automation and stuff. So that's what I'm doing now, which is cool. I like it. I really enjoy it. But now I'm moving more into like, all right, what is a technology platform? That's more like a services company, right? Like now I'm moving into what is like a technology platform that enables like the amateur athlete to have a curated team around them to help optimize their performance and meet like-minded people.
And that's something you thought about after you got yourself into athletics?
Yeah, that's something I thought about after athletics.
Okay, so
it's kind of just continuously evolved as I got deeper into running and just like more fit, because I started to realize what I needed as I was traveling and doing different things. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, hey, like I think a lot of people think that as an athlete you have all these people around you and it costs loads and loads of money. But I have like a team of people around me every day, but they live all over the world. So it's not like it's not cheap, but it's also not like incredibly expensive either. Yeah. But I think all these people around me make me 10x better of a person.
Okay.
And so I think that if the amateur athlete or even average person can find a way to curate a team around them, they become incredibly like much more successful.
Very much subscribe to this idea. I'm very curious. We're going to delve into that.
For sure.
But so first tell me how you got into fitness. Were you always into fitness? Did you?
Well, I in high school, I did play like American football. So I was into fitness mostly because it was like something to do at school. I wouldn't say I was actually mentally into fitness. I was more like into...
Did you drop it afterwards?
Yeah, because I just went to college and then like my most competitive game was beer pong at that point. So
okay,
like, you know,
because I know you dropped 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And when was that?
So when the pandemic first started,
yeah,
we were like all locked in the house and all these things. So I actually ended up, I was in Colombia at the time, and then everybody was talking about this pandemic and it was crazy, and I was like, maybe I should go back to America for like just a little bit. So the plan was to go back for 2 weeks. So I went back to America. I was living in like Miami, a little bit outside of Miami. I don't want to, because in Florida, right? I went to college in Florida. Like when people are from Miami, they're from Miami. Like this was Dania Beach, right?
Okay.
Which is not Miami. It's
okay.
A little bit like north of Miami.
You're like, fact checkers are going to be on my back
exactly.
if I don't specify. Okay.
Exactly. And so I was living there for a bit with my friend Brian, and we were just like super bored. So we started going more intense on Spanish because we needed to learn Spanish anyway, because we were going to live in South America, Spain, all these type things. And we ended up doing that. And then also we just needed to get out of the house. And so I started just running just a little bit every day because I needed to like
What shape were you in then?
Oh, I was so bad. I was still drinking almost every day because like, I probably shouldn't say this, but in the pandemic we were having like quite a few parties.
Yeah.
Because we did have a pool and I had friends in Florida.
Okay, so COVID parties.
Yeah, it wasn't
too
good.
Too much eating, too much drinking.
Yeah, and I mean every day we would like freak out. We were like, do we have COVID? This might be bad.
Is this COVID or is it just me not being in shape?
or like not being in shape. It was so many factors.
Okay.
Right? And so I was in bad shape. Like I was eating super unhealthy. I was still like drinking quite a bit. I don't really drink at all now. Actually, I don't drink at all. Even then, I don't really drink at all. It's like I don't drink right now. And I couldn't even run 1 mile, honestly. I would run and walk the first mile, and I couldn't even. So our
Never
goal,
been a runner.
No, especially not distance. And so my goal, there was a beach like maybe I would say 1.5 to 2 miles away from our house. And so the goal was always to run fully to the beach and back, right? That was just the goal at that time. And so I couldn't even make it to the beach at first, but I was just like, oh, I'll just keep trying every day. And so finally I made it to the beach. Then I made it to the beach and a little bit back. Then I made it to the beach and halfway back. Then I made it to the beach and all the way back. And I started to lose weight, right? I was still drinking and all that stuff. So I was losing weight, but not as much weight as I probably could have. But I started to become motivated, right? And going back to the 2% better piece.
Because you see results and then.
Exactly. And so back to the 2% better piece, I was just like, just start doing it every day, just a little bit. Like, even if you have to walk, like for example, I couldn't just stop. I had to walk all the way back as well, right? So I would run, walk back, and I would just keep getting farther and farther every time. And then I just got sick of being like in Dania Beach. And I said I wanted to like travel like around the middle part of America. And so I needed to keep fitness at the forefront. And so I met some of my friends in Boise, Idaho. And we went to this gym that was like very intense, like sprint interval type training type stuff. And like it was free. So we all did it at 4 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah. So that like, and that kind of kept up with the fitness journey.
So when did that become you running marathons and you being backed by brands?
Oh yeah. I think that.
What was the time interval and how, this is what I'm really curious about is how do you go from a person that doesn't care about health to a person that is really on top of it and is running every day? I can see that, it's all about your mindset. It's all about where you put your priorities. It's all about your habits, motivation, the bigger vision. I can see that. How does then that become something professional where you could say that's a part of my career now?
Yeah, so I think that just I think this also with like the entrepreneurial mind. I think initially, as you start doing something, you have a bigger vision.
Yes.
So as I started getting deeper into running, and honestly in London, that's when I was like, whoa, the running community is crazy. Before I got to London, I had no idea people had coaches and all this stuff. And like people were like, I used to run a 5K or 10K with my family, right? But not like we're walking, we're running, we're getting the medal and we're celebrating. It's great.
Quality
right?
family time.
Quality family time. But I didn't know people were like in the front running very fast. I had no idea that happened. So this was last year, actually. I came here last year and my friend challenged me to run a marathon at the end of last year as well. So I saw that there was a half marathon going on in London.
I'm doing one on Sunday.
Oh, yes.
First one ever.
Yes. You're
very excited. By the way, I have not trained aside 3 runs in the park.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see how that goes.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
I'm very interested. So this is very relevant right now. Where you're telling me about like coaches and teams. Okay.
Yeah. So I came to London and I was doing the Hackney Half Marathon. And actually, so I get a lot of tattoos in Turkey. And so, there's a couple of things of how this all transpired. So I was living in South Africa at the time, right, for like 2 months. And I was running there for a bit. I was just trying to stay fit, right? I started training with a trainer there to stay fit. And I was trying to run fast, but short distance, right? And then I went to Rwanda because I saw this thing in a museum and I wanted to learn about genocide and why this happened and all these type things. So I went to Rwanda. But in Rwanda, there's a lot of hills, right? So I was running on one of the hills and I got like an ITB, like pool or infection or whatever you call it. And I was like, man, like what in the world is going on? But as you're traveling, you're not trying to go to doctors and all this type stuff all the time, right? So I just started researching like, all right, how to prevent this, how to make it better and all these type things. And so I started just doing it myself. And then I went to Turkey. I got like tattoos and all these things. I was working on it there. I wasn't running at all. But then I signed up for the Hackney Half, right? When I came to London, I realized that there was a physio, right, that I could talk to about the ITB ban. I was telling him some of my times that I ran before, but I was just like gunning it, like in some of my training runs. He's like, oh, have you ever thought about a coach, man? And then that's how I like met my coach now and all these type of things. And then I started seeing like there were run clubs here and all this type stuff. So I would say like kind of going back to your question on how does it start to like turn into something that you can probably monetize and all that type of stuff. I think it's one, just like getting deeper into the running space or whatever space you're in. And then 3, being around people, right, that are like kind of connecting you and listening to the world in some capacity on like where you should go next, right? So he was like, oh, you should think about a coach. And the coach emailed me and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I'll check him out, right? And then I went to run club. At that run club, they're like, oh, I started seeing people like running influencers. I had no idea what that was, you know?
Running influencers.
Yeah,
okay.
There's people that are like running and people are just watching. Like, I mean, now like people are questioning me now on Instagram with like running and stuff like, hey, what shoes should I get? How do I get faster? And like all these type things. So I started seeing this community of running influencers where like now brands are working with them. People are interested in their journey. And by the way, I think a lot of this happened throughout the pandemic because people were
I started
interested in
running for the first time during pandemic.
Exactly.
Never did before.
And so now I'm seeing like, I did Kilimanjaro last year, which was cool. And like a lot of people are like doing ultra marathons and like all these challenging things. And brands are working with them to amplify their messaging or whatever. But then also like supporting athletes doing outrageous things. Right. And so that's how it's kind of evolved now. And I'm still defining what that looks like and how I want to go about doing that. But right now I'm focused strictly on running. Then I'll probably move into triathlons and then probably in my 40s or something, go into like ultras and just crazy challenges around the world.
Cause I like that you have
traveling.
this long-term vision already planned out.
Yeah.
So for now are you running marathons?
Half marathon and marathon as well. So I have a marathon in April, Manchester Marathon.
Very exciting.
So,
yeah. So for you, was it that some brands reached out to you or did you reach out to some brands? What was first?
I don't know. I think it was me. I think it was a kind of a combination of both. Like I started just building like relationships. Honestly, the same way I did it in startup, right? I was just like, let me just put myself in these atmosphere and see what happens. And so like, they're cool people, and I like to think I'm decently cool. And so we kind of started hitting it off, and then things start just kind of spiraling, from there. So it was kind of like a combination of them both. Like I would go to some of the events or some of the run clubs or whatever it may be. And then I would just start meeting people that then started connecting the dots. So now we're in like, I think a heavy momentum stage of like what this could look like down the line.
Because you've been sponsored by or working with Under Armour, you said now.
Yeah. So I'm working with Under Armour right now for Manchester Marathon, which is crazy still in my head because I had no idea that could happen. Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking about this for other races. Like, how can I continuously work with Under Armour, or like what other brands can I work with to magnify kind of the things that like I'm trying to do and accomplish, hopefully inspire others. And then also like on the like longer term thing of this, I'm trying to do more like philanthropic type of things as well. So now I'm trying to create like, how do we bring this all together from like a tech and athlete and like a giving perspective, also while traveling. Right.
There are about 4 directions that I want to take this.
Yes.
Okay, so first, to kind of close off the brand sponsorship collaboration topic. So for somebody that's not in this industry, how does for example, if you're able to talk about the Under Armour one, or maybe if you're not, about a hypothetical one. So
yeah, I don't
is
even
it that say a brand would then come to you and, pay you for running under their brand?
Yeah, that's ultimately what it kind of comes down to. And like there's some requirements, like maybe different post or feedback on their equipment, sharing more information about their brand, things like that. Like basically, how do you magnify or amplify their message in your community? Right.
I guess it all goes back to what you mentioned in the beginning as well, of having this niche and this unique story.
Yeah.
That's how you also become interesting to these brands and to even your potential followers and people that you inspire.
For sure. And I think that's why people should like chase their dreams, right? Because it's all...
Your dreams make you unique.
That's the thing. Like the thing is, there's no like right or wrong way to approach life or your dreams, right? but somebody's going to resonate with some part of your story, right? Maybe it's the courage you have. Maybe it's your actual weight loss, or I don't know, how you become more beautiful or whatever it may be, right? Somebody's going to resonate with some part of your journey in some capacity. So just like start. And then I think there's two parts of it: start, and then there's one share. And I'm still getting in that share part. Because sometimes when you're going through your journey, you feel like, oh, this is normal. Like everybody would do this. But no, like most people won't. And I think it's also really good to show others that they can. A lot of people think that when they see things, obviously you see celebrities and all these people kind of at the end of their journey, but no one or very few people see people throughout their journey.
Yeah.
You know? And I think if you think about different artists that you resonate with in the music world, the artists that I resonate with most are the ones that I go through the journey with them. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe, like, I remember they had 2,000 followers. Now this person's like, that's crazy.
Well, that's very, very true. And another thing that I think about celebrities often is that, you know, when we admire them, when we put them on a pedestal saying, oh, they're there and I'm just here. It's like they've had to go through that journey of often also doing things that are not necessarily them ultimately, you know. Even like if we look at Lady Gaga, for example, right? The type of music that she started with versus the type of music that she does now. And I've seen several stars, you know, have that type of journey, like now not at the end, but like at the current point of their long career, they're making very, very different type of art and music, maybe, you know, movies, whoever it is. And arguably that's the real them. But they had to start somewhere. So I think it's worth emphasizing how it's important to just start.
Yeah, because you evolve, you iterate, right?
Yeah, and if you're not able to, you know, start from that point where, you know, the peak of your vision is, it would be weird if you could.
Yeah.
Like you're not meant to start from Mount Everest.
No.
Like you're meant to start from the bottom. But I think that everyone's oftentimes so focused on that like limelight that they see these other people, successful people, stars, whatever, be on. It's like, but it took them how long? Like it took them decades probably.
Oh yeah.
If you're just starting, like relax.
Yeah, I have a friend, right? I posted this on my Instagram, I don't know, maybe yesterday or something. They raised $100 million twice, actually. Like this was the second time they've done it. And I'm sure he's like maybe 36, right? So I'm sure people are like, oh, he's so young. How do you do that? Like me and him were literally sleeping in a co-working space together in California, you know, like maybe that was 6 years ago or something. So it's like he deserves that. He like, and by the way, he was sleeping on couches and stuff even before we were doing that. You know, like we were eating $3 burritos at like around 11 to 12 so we could have brunch, right? Yeah. And then at night we would go to free events to get food, right? Because they had free food, free beer, all this type of stuff. And now he's raised $100 million, right? That's
the belief
crazy.
and the resilience and trust in your own power and vision that you need to have to endure that for an extended amount of time is commendable.
Yeah. There's so in South Africa, right? It's, you talk about this duration of time. So in South Africa, it's Nelson Mandela, right? And he was locked up for 27 years. And I was just so blown away when I was on Robben Island, because it's like in 27 years, he still came out with the same vision he had when he went in. And I said, if I can have the resilience and focus of Nelson Mandela, I'd be dangerous.
World is your oyster.
Yes. To have that level of focus for 27 years when they're trying to control everything that you've done, to be that mentally resilient, it's hard to beat someone like that.
Very, very true. I want to talk a little bit about your nomadic lifestyle.
Yes.
Very curious about that. So we've touched a little bit about your career, about the fitness, and what you're doing now with the athletics. So you don't have a home.
No.
How is that possible?
Yeah, so I live out of Airbnbs and hotels all throughout the year. Sometimes it might be a couple nights, whatever it may be, because I just want to see a city quickly or whatever it may be. Or I stay in Airbnbs. For me, it allows me to have like freedom of mind and space. Like I can end it whenever like I want. And by the way, I need to be inspired by different things throughout the world constantly as well. So yeah, I live out of Airbnb. I've been doing this for like 5 years or so.
5 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually crazy because the way this actually started was one. I was living. So my cousin, he had a flight pass, right? And so he was like, "Hey man, come on as my companion, et cetera, et cetera." So I did that.
Sorry, what's a flight pass?
A flight pass, sorry. A flight pass means that I could like fly for an extremely discounted rate when I was living in America, right? And he put me on as his companion. I was like working remote at the time too. Like I was just at that point I had like I'm part of like a software development company out of South America. We do like we just help startups build their technology product and all these type things. So I was getting like a good amount of cash that came in from there, and yeah, I didn't need to really be anywhere or really.
So you
do
had the
anything.
freedom to travel, and now
Yeah.
travel costs nothing, so you were even more incentivized to travel.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And I can imagine you were, putting all the accommodation expenses through your company. So
Yeah.
that became.
Yeah, so it was great, right?
Okay.
But the thing was,
And you were 24, 25?
At this time I was like 25, 26.
Mm-hmm.
But at this time I was leaving California, and I would maybe go to like Europe for a week or like maybe 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would come back. Then I would leave again. Then I would come back. Then I would leave again. And I would come back. But I was paying rent in California. So I was like, man, my friend said, "Hey man, like if you can be anywhere, why are you here?" Right? My friend Brian that I actually lived with in Dania Beach as well, he's doing all of this now as well.
Okay.
So it's crazy.
He
It's
followed
really
your
cool.
footsteps.
Yeah, I think we
were
inspired
doing
each
it,
other
mhm.
in some capacities, right? In different ways, because he was working a job, but he's like, "Why are you here?" He's like, "If I had your setup, I would be gone." So my friend ended up getting a travel nurse assignment in California, and I had my car. You had to like move your car all the time. I was getting like tickets or whatever because I was gone, right? And I was like, I'm not gonna move my car, like whatever. And so she ended up doing a travel assignment for maybe 3-4 months. And so I was like, "Hey, stay at my house. You can drive my car. You can do all these things, whatever. But if you pay my rent or half of my rent, I forgot the agreement, then I'll just travel and kind of see what this looks like if I stay somewhere for a month." And I was sitting on the couch one day, and I ended up going to Santiago, Chile, right? And that was like the kickoff to my nomadic journey, which was also crazy because I'm in Chile at that time. I couldn't speak like any Spanish at all, and the Spanish there is like different. Like I was with a friend from Spain, like I met them there, and they just spoke to them in English because it was just too challenging, like accent wise or whatever. And so that was my first kickoff to nomadic life. I was living in
And you loved it.
Oh, I loved it. 'Cause
Never
I was
looked
like,
back.
I was like, man, I'm in this country. I don't know anyone. And I started meeting people online at this website called Nomad List. And I just started meeting, I just started meeting random people who were like, "Oh yeah, I've been living like this. I met a guy from Croatia, a girl from Spain," like all these people just like kind of like-minded. Like, why be tethered down to one place? And it changed my life. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, like really changed my life, right? Because actually at that time in Chile, there was like a riot that broken out because they were like raising the cost of the train system, and the salaries were still staying the same. So it was going to be a dramatic impact to like the everyday worker. And so there was like pepper spray in the streets. My eyes were burning. There were people like
Jesus.
burning a sign. I was like, this is crazy.
Time to go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I actually
next
didn't. Yeah, but I didn't go home though.
Yeah.
I went to Peru.
Okay.
And so my mom was calling me, "What are you doing? This is crazy."
So
And
basically, for 5 years, you've just been going place to place to place,
Yeah.
explored all the world, all the cultures. All
I
the
would say
places.
not all the world yet, but a lot of it.
You're on
Yeah.
track.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a lot of questions. So it's been 5 years. First of all, are you still on track? Are you loving it? Are you thinking
Yeah.
about changing it?
I'm loving it, but with running, I have to be more still for longer durations of time.
However, your sentiment towards the nomadic lifestyle has not changed.
No, I think it's just the best way to live by far.
Okay.
Because at least for me, if I live in one place too long, I get too comfortable, and you should never be comfortable in life because life is constantly changing, right? I have a tattoo on my leg of a Maasai, a woman. It's a tribe out of Kenya, Tanzania, as well, and they are nomadic, even to this day, right? They're nomadic around their like actual like area, right? But I think that humans well, I guess you always have like nomadic people and settlers and all these things, but I think humans should be nomadic, or at least a large part of them, because we have to adapt to different things in the world all the time, and we also have to be inspired by different things at every moment. And so sometimes like London is great because I like the city life. It's cool, awesome. I'm meeting really inspiring people, all of that type of stuff. But sometimes I need to like live in Zanzibar when I'm at the beach and I'm hanging out with these like young kids that do this diving and they're bringing fresh fish and like that. Sometimes I just need to like be more calm, you know?
It's so beautiful to be able to see all sides of life like this.
Yes.
I'm very inspired. I've always been one of those people that have fantasized about this type of life,
Yeah.
for sure. And I even remember, and this might be even like 7-8 years ago, this kind of nomadic, like blog post type lifestyle. I was reading about it. I was like, this is awesome. This is amazing. But I guess it's also, you know, how you're set up. You know, there's levels of doing it.
Yeah.
Which goes back to kind of structure and how you're actually able to do your work, which I'm going to get to. But what about things like feeling grounded, having roots? What about your relationships? Do you have a relationship? Is it sustainable to have a relationship if you're doing that? Is that even important to you? I don't know. Maybe that you don't care.
I would say this. So I am dating someone in London, and I was like, we were together, like actually together. Now we're dating because it is challenging. It is challenging to say the least, right? So before I was not dating at all, like not like I wasn't even thinking about it. And then so I met like my partner here. We were like hanging out initially. Then it became like we were living together. But then it's like it's like in this life, you oftentimes when some people feel you don't have limitations. For example, some people, if they can work remote but in their country, they think that's freedom. That is not. That still is limitations, right? Just because you don't have to be in the office, like whatever, but you have to be in your country. That's limiting, right? For me, I can't live with any rules. I can't live with any boundaries. No one can tell me to do or say anything, right? And so I think in like a relationship dynamic, sometimes there are like rules and all these things. I don't do well with that. And it's like not like even the other individual's fault, right? In fact, I think
just
it's mine.
Principle.
Right. And in fact, I think it's mine because like with this lifestyle, I don't really listen to rules of anywhere, right? Like through the pandemic, I was
you
traveling.
Make your own rules and you
I make my own
life,
rules. Yeah. Like I don't look at, I look at what I want to do. I don't look at what I can do, right? So for example, like during the pandemic, as an American, I shouldn't get into Spain. Like, but I wanted to go to Spain. So no one's going to tell me I can't go to Spain. So I paid for a Spanish school there. I got into the country. I'll share some of the logistics, but I got into the country. And then I deferred it just in case I need it again. You know what I mean? Because like there's no rules, right? So I think that there is a way to have partnership. I don't know if I figured that out, honestly, though, to be honest on that point. But also, I think the challenging part is you're also okay with being by yourself. Because most of the time...
That's the challenging part.
Well, it's challenging because with partnership, it's like, I think a lot of times people want you to be like, people want to feel needed or wanted in a partnership, right?
Definitely.
I don't need or want that, honestly.
To feel needed?
I don't need
make other person.
Both. I don't need to feel needed, and I don't need that in my life, right? It's more like cool if it's there, cool if it's not. But it's hard to explain that to someone. But if you're living in Turkey, right, and no one is speaking English, and you're by yourself for months, right? Or you're in Spain in some random spot, right? Or you're in Eastern Europe, in Montenegro for a month, you know no one. Everyone's looking at you like you're ridiculous for even being there. You've been by yourself so long, right? You start to get extremely comfortable with who you are, what you bring to the table. You become whole, right? So, and you also value like a lot of time of isolation. So while some people need that time together, a lot of my relationships have been built virtually as well, right? My team is in South America and Eastern Europe. I've been talking to them on computers constantly, and I feel like we have great relationships, even if I see them once a year, right? So sometimes I don't have that desire, and I also maybe, unfortunately, I don't see it as valuable to spend like loads of time with someone to have like a connection with them, right? I think a lot of relationships are built more on depth than time. A lot of people look at time. For example, I can spend 2 weeks with someone and have like an incredibly in-depth understanding of them that maybe their family doesn't even understand, because I focus a lot on depth and just understand that the time that we have together is enough.
This is so interesting because I guess it brings us to the topic of, well, what is a relationship? You know, these days when we have such accessibility of whoever digitally, well, is that a real relationship? Can we say that, a digital relationship is a real relationship? And of course you presumably would have met the people. And I agree with you that it's about depth and intensity of an interaction that counts and builds the relationship rather than the time passed. Absolutely. For example, my 2 best friends, none of them live in this country.
Yeah.
But I do feel that I wish I could hug them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I wish I could see them in person. Like there is some level of physical proximity that just is irreplaceable, at least to me. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah. I think it's just like creating space for it, really. Like I think, like, again, you can do trips with them. Maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's twice a year, whatever you need, right? But for me, I don't need like that type of stuff every single day, you know?
Everything that I hear, it's so amazing. Like it's very interesting because I almost can feel that there's that level of freedom that you've achieved internally above all, and of course physically you're not tied to any country. What about, just caveat, what about your stuff? Do you have things, or like where do you keep your
well, before I started running, I have loads of running shoes now. I only have one suitcase.
What?
And by the way, actually I should talk about that, because only having one suitcase and traveling is important as well for the mind. Even going through the exercise of saying, what do I need to live and fit in one suitcase?
I'm sorry. I'm having anxious breathing right now. So one suitcase, like more, where's your stuff? Is it all in that one? Do you just travel with that one suitcase? Is everything in that one suitcase? Do you have like storages? Do you have what?
No, it would just be the one suitcase. Because I live more like a minimalistic lifestyle.
No, that's incredible.
If it's cold, I would just buy a coat, right? If it's like, for example, these shoes, for example, I spent $50 on them in Turkey because it was cold that day. And like, I don't need them every day. Like now I do have like a lot of running shoes because I'm like investing in that. But I only have 2 suitcases at that point. But yeah, because it's like, all I need is, I wear the same type of shirts every day.
What does the word freedom mean to you?
Freedom of like thinking. Like, what can I create with my mind when I wake up, choosing to like do whatever I want to do any day of the week, choosing where I want to be and like what I want to say. Like that's
Why is that
freedom.
important? Why is freedom important to you?
Because it's going back to like authenticity. Like I have to be my whole entire self. If I can't be I talk about my friend Brian all the time. But me and him were talking about it. Like, if you can't be yourself 100%, the cost is too high because you get one life. So if I can't be my entire self, I just rather not be it at all. So I have to have freedom to be that.
I completely agree with you. Was there anything that happened to you early in your life that kind of triggered this craving for freedom, for authenticity?
My mom. Oh my God. Like growing up, I would be with my mom all day because like my dad would be at work and all these things. My mom would go to I go to coffee shops every day because my mom probably as well. My mom would go to the coffee shop. She'll go chill with one of her friends. She might hit the bookstore. She might decide to hit the beach that day. I'm like, pfft. Mind you though, she's like in real estate, but she's also kind of like a stay-at-home mom, right? But I'm like, I can figure that out. Like, I want to live like that too, you know? And yeah, I think that's kind of sparked it. And then I had a friend who I kind of look at it more like an older brother now. When I was 22, I was living in Philadelphia. It was like he had an art gallery. We were at the pool at like noon, and then he was at the beach for like a month. I'm like, dude, when do you work, man? And he's like, man, I don't work in the summer. And I was like, yo, I need to live like this.
Hook me with some of that.
Exactly. So then it's crazy because he's talking to me now like, man, like, bro, it's crazy what you've done. I'm like, bro, like you ignited this, you know? So I think it's like inputs from them where I was just like, man, I got to keep.
So let's talk about the practicalities of this. How do you actually, if you're traveling all the time, you mentioned that you have a very strong structure and you have more routine than maybe your normal friends that are in 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to me about that. How do you get stuff done?
So I have different compartments on my day. So I think it's like 4 compartments. The first one is mind and body. So the first part of my day, I focus on the gym. So I go do strength training, then I do a run, and then I do meditation.
How long does that take you?
Like 2.5 to 3 hours. It's quite a long process.
Are you an early riser?
Yeah. So I think I'll probably get to the gym at like 7:30, like not super early, but like early enough. So I go there, and sometimes 6:30. It just depends like where I'm at. To be fair, like I live in Macedonia like 6 weeks of the year, and there I go to the gym at 6:30. Right. And I do this whole thing. But yeah, so that's like the first part of my day. The second part of my day is experimental learning. So I usually go to museums. I'm learning Swahili right now as well. So Swahili or language learning or something like that. Also things like this, right? Like just doing like really cool things. I'm
Keeps
shooting
you
like
creative.
Yeah, like creative type thing. Cause I'm like shooting more content now, which is super cool. I like creating that. And then I go into traditional work.
I was going to say, where is the work part?
Yeah. So I look at it as traditional work. Most times like people are just sitting at their job like not really doing much anyway. But when I go into like traditional work, I'm like heads down, like deep working.
How many hours are we talking?
I try not to keep. I try not to have any part of my day more than 3 hours.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's like beneficial actually.
Okay.
And it goes back to the 2% philosophy. Like if you just do a little bit every day, like you'll be fine. And then also other parts of my day are kind of feeding into that. So maybe when I'm exercising, I'm actually thinking about like a deal structure, or I'm thinking about like different tasks I need to do in the day or whatever it may be. So it's like all different parts of my day are feeding into my actual work. And then in that 3 hour like window of, I would say traditional work, now that sports has kind of taken a little bit more time, has kind of bled into kind of the experimental learning, mostly because it's like I'm experimenting with like the content and all these type of things. So and like outreach to brands and
still
all
learning
that
new things, so that classifies.
Yeah, so it's kind of like in that same boat. And then the last part of the day is community. So I might like have dinner with friends, go to a run club, whatever it may be.
And you're able to do that anywhere, anytime.
Oh yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. Every single day I start my day. I'll find a coffee shop. It must be a local coffee shop though. Cause I believe like local entrepreneurs are like fighting hard to stay there. So I try to at least do my fair share there. So I go to a local coffee shop. Typically after 2 to 3 days, they already know your order because you're there, you're chatting them, whatever. So I go to that coffee shop. Typically by day 2, day 3, they're like, "Oh, hey, Carmichael, what's up?" And then I go to the gym. But I do that.
Size within community already.
Yeah, which already gives me that like sense of like
belonging.
Belonging.
Absolutely.
And so you know the people there basically. And then if you keep coming back, which I go to these spots all the time, I mean it's like it's actually crazy. Like when I go to South Africa, like it's like living in London. I don't even technically live in London, and it's like I have community here. Like if people came to these places with me, same thing in Macedonia. When I go to Macedonia, it's like my family when I go there. So it's like I have home in a lot of places.
I love the richness of that, the breadth of life and the culture that you're able to experience by doing that is absolutely incredible. Practically, how, if somebody is listening to this and they're like, okay, sounds like my cup of tea. How do I get on that? How long did it take you? How many years did it take you? What did it take you to be able to get to those 3 hours a day of work being sufficient for you to do this? And actually, I don't know if that's classified, but how much do you need a month to be able to do that? Of course, it will depend. It would
depend on your lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly,
honestly.
on the lifestyle. But, you know.
I mean, to be fair, like I might make a pretty good amount of cash every month, but I try not to spend that much because I try to like live in moderation. In London, I spend much more because it's just an expensive city. But I would say overall throughout the year, you could easily live this life for, by the way, this is, I think, on the higher end. If you can make $5K a month, you can live like this easily. Like, because there's ways to do it much cheaper.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Like
But
much
let's
cheaper.
say you want to be comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
we're not talking like ultra luxury.
Yeah,
but like
moderate.
comfortable.
Yeah,
Nice.
you can make 5K a month and do this, because you can. There's like, especially there's countries you can have a spot rented for a month for like 1,000. You know, and for example, when I live in Macedonia, I might spend $1,500 that month, maybe 2K.
Yeah.
And I'm eating out every day. My apartment is like $500. I have personal trainer. I'm getting massages twice a week, right? So it depends where you want to go. Like, if you have 5K, you can do this easily.
So how long did it take you to get to the point where you can work 3 hours a day?
I honestly, I don't really know, like, timing wise. I think it was more of a mindset shift. I said, if it takes more than this, I won't do it, right? Even if money is involved. Yeah. Even if more money is involved, I won't do it. Only because, too, I wanted to, one, create the philosophy for my life that was scalable, that kind of was more in line with like 2% better and like how I want to live my life, and also the different categories of it to what I believe is like a balanced person. And I wanted to go deeper into the sports long term. So I kind of took a step back on the work stuff because I wanted to invest more time in the athletic stuff to hopefully have that raise, like in some way, like incremental income as well, where it allows me to still live my day in this format and still have large amounts of income long term, right? So I think also people need to be willing to take a step back in order to take a step forward. Most people aren't.
Yeah, people
right?
get especially going through the life as you get older, you get used to your comforts.
Yeah, but it's like, it's, for me, I could just focus on business and probably like go way higher than I am now, right? But
like, at what cost?
Yeah, at what cost? Like, I want to be able to be what I call like the Renaissance man, good at everything. How do I become the 1% in every category?
Interesting.
That's what I want to be.
So rather than being, well, I was going to use the word genius, but however, Leonardo da Vinci was a genius, and he, in fact,
it's funny you talked about Leonardo da Vinci.
He was
a
genius in many multiple disciplines.
And so that's what like I'm striving to be. But you have to like put the time in.
But he's not 1%. He's like 100% in like several.
Yes.
That's a tough
That's
goal to reach.
Yeah, but I'm saying the top 1% though.
Okay.
Right. And so like in running, right, like that takes loads of time. It's going to take loads of years to get to like where I want to be there. And like, I'm okay with that. Right. But I'm just putting in the work every day.
That is so calming to hear. Also, I mentioned that earlier when you said that, okay, you know, when I'm in my 40s, I'm going to run ultra. It's so relaxing for somebody that is sometimes, I'll admit, you know, a lot hard on myself, you know, with goals and like the visions and things that I want to achieve. It's very calming to be able to hear that long term, no pressure, constant work attitude.
I mean, it's like your life's going to get better year by year.
Yeah, there's no rush. Basically,
there's
no rush mentality.
Yeah, like what's the point? But if you create a philosophy that you can live by and be happy with, why would you, like, for example, if I was making $1 million a month right now, I don't think I would change my life actually. Like, maybe I get a crazier Airbnb and have more friends over. That's
an excellent benchmark of knowing that you are where you need to be.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is the stuff, like, if you create that life for yourself every day and you keep just working, you'll be fine.
Amazing. Because you're already happy because you're happy where you are, because you wouldn't change anything even if you know, $1 million a month would be falling onto you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great place to be. I think is there some taxation benefits as well of living this lifestyle?
Yeah, at least for like an American, I don't know like what in the UK and things, but you get like a foreign earned income tax credit as well if you're not in the US for 330 days or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that's also why I don't really go back to America. I don't know. There's all these other tax benefits too. I'm still, by the way, I'm still learning about all these things. I know about that because like I've actually taken advantage of that one, but I'm not sure. Like, there's so many different ways, and now there's like accountants that I'm like talking to and like tax lawyers and things specifically focused on like more nomadic type of people, because I think more and more people are living this type of life, right? I think a lot of people talk about like, well, what about kids? Or like, so it's like, yeah, like they will and can live similar lives as well. because there's more communities like this that have kids, and maybe they're traveling more as tribes, but their kids are maybe learning remote. Or
Yeah, I
whatever.
had a guest recently. She's a homeschooling mom of two,
Oh, nice.
and she's not a nomad, but that's what she's chosen.
Yeah.
And so I think that can be a very great type of setup and learning for kids, regardless, even if you're traveling or not. So if you can just incorporate those two, then that could potentially be very, again, culturally enriching, educational, and just, personality building for the kids.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think this is the way the world will be in the future, right? Like now, you can connect with people from everywhere, right? Like somebody that's more like minded could be in like Botswana right now, and like you all hit it off, and you can be there tomorrow, right? So the world is more global and like intertwined than it's ever been.
I'm feeling my own views expanded from this conversation. I'm very happy that we're having this. It's almost like I can feel, and I check in with this regularly myself as well, but I think the importance of reminders is just unparamount, and it's unparalleled. And this is also why I'm making this podcast, because we all know all things that we should be doing. We just forget them. Yeah. Because of all the things that we're doing every day. Exactly. So it's good to have reminders in forms of mantras, in forms of podcasts, in forms of, content that you consume that is good for you, that reminds you of those important things that are beneficial to you. So what I was trying to say is this conversation just made me realize once again of all the unnecessary rules and frameworks that I have around me that are in place, that are kind of holding me back from what could be, and there's absolutely no necessity for them. Like there is no reason for them to exist. It is just because I'm moving by inertia of decisions that I've made in the past. And oftentimes, like, all of our lives and our presents are built on moments like that. Like our brain is lazy. Like we make the decision and then we don't want to think about it anymore, you know? And so we build and build it every day, and like months and years pass. So if we don't check in with those decisions and those habits that we've built over the years,
you look up and you're in the same spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or rather just simply even not where you could be.
Exactly. And but I posted about this today on my Instagram. Is like going back to like the clothes, like house, all these type things. These things create mental limitations for you without you even knowing. Yeah, for that, like mental and physical things, right? Because you're like,
I'm still wrapping my head around that one luggage.
Oh. Yeah, I mean it's hard though. But like I also don't care about clothes and like things like this. Like I have 3 pair of pants. Like I wear the same shirts. Maybe I have like sometimes I have like 10 of these, and I just put it on and just keep going.
So interesting.
Yeah, because like
it leaves you so much mental space for other things.
Yeah.
So all I'm sensing a lot of experiential.
Yeah.
Philosophy in you is like how you go through life is by experiencing things and doing and being and connecting rather than having, which is very unencumbering and liberating. Yeah. By definition. So no kind of possessions, no properties, no excessive amounts of closets. It's
it's being rich in things that like people can't see. That's it. Like if you talk to someone, like for example, when I was in South Africa, there was a guy, a Maasai, who walked from Tanzania to South Africa, right? I mean, they were in the same thing every day. They have sandals, all these things. But think about the experience you have from walking that far, right? It's like, how do you do cooler things like that, right? When I climbed like Kilimanjaro, that was just a crazy experience, right? And it's like, okay, maybe because a lot of people wear a designer and all this stuff, like that's fine. Like I don't like do your thing, but like for example, Kilimanjaro, right? It's like, and then I went gorilla trekking and things like that, right? Like those are kind of like costly experiences. But no one knows that unless you like look it up and all this type of stuff. But people that like know about it, they can be like, oh, wow, like you've done gorilla trekking. Oh, you've done Kilimanjaro. But they won't just look at you and see that. They have to talk to you. They have to get to know you. They have to, you know what I mean? Or like learning a new language. Like that's investment in time and money every single day. So if you can speak 4 languages, you can assume that person has made it a tremendous investment, whether it's an experience of like living in that country or in a tutor or whatever it may be. Like to me, those are more interesting things, right? If you can invest time and money in those type of things. Of course,
because it's about how hard it was to get there. You know, anybody, regardless of how they got the funds, which might have been by doing nothing, they were just born into that, can, you know, purchase something that's very expensive. Super and of course, most of the people won't be able to do that. So that, you know, sets them aside. It's facts, right? Yeah. However, things that set you aside from other people where you were forced to put into effort and time and energy, and also had maybe some sort of intellectual threshold to be able to be in that category, that's so much harder. So that sets you aside even more.
And those items aren't like if you think about it, in like Kilimanjaro, there's only one Kilimanjaro. There's only a certain amount of people that even do that like per year, right? There's multiple Louis stores. There's multiple Gucci stores.
Well, I mean, as somebody that's worked in the luxury watchmaking for many, many years, you know, they will say that this is a limited edition of one piece.
Exactly. No, I get it. I get
so,
it.
Yeah.
But like,
you're right.
If you have, say, 5K in your account, maybe you can go get one of these bags or something. I'm not sure of the cost of them, of them now, but like you can buy it, but maybe it's your last, you know? But like I have a friend right now, he's running across America for like 64 days. He's doing 50 miles every day. And that's crazy. That's rare. That's not many people, maybe 0.001% do that, right? Why not do things like that?
Of course.
Where it's like, man, like, and by the way, now you have to think about, how did he get 64 days off work at minimum?
Of course.
That's not even his training. Right.
It's about choices. It's about choices and what people put value on. I always think about this, especially recently. It's like, if you look at people's social media, you can really tell what they put value on, like for them, like in their lives, but also what they would then be impressed by in other people. Yes. You know what I mean?
That is very true. Especially like when you're dating, like when I was more of my party scene, it was very easy to identify girls that were of substance and not of substance, to say the least. Very easy.
Go on.
It was just very easy. I won't give away the secrets.
No, you better be giving away the secrets.
There are guys that are already like doing this, but it's super easy. Like the girls that like are maybe giving off that they're like living this flashy lifestyle, those are typically probably the easiest girls to impress because it only takes money, right? They also aren't really living the lifestyle. They are also the brokest, right? So it's like, it's pretty easy to spot all this type stuff. You take a girl like that to some fancy restaurant and you're pretty much in a good spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I know that, but I just wanted you to confirm that. Maybe you gave me some nugget that I didn't know yet.
Yeah, no, it's like super easy to spot, identify all this. Like,
yeah, it's going back to that. You know, you feel the need to portray things that you are usually insecure about or are lacking. It's like my mom used to say, good products don't need advertisement.
Literally.
So anyway, there were a couple of more things that I wanted to talk about. So Swahili.
Yes.
And your philanthropic kind of endeavors.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. And I need to connect you to another person. Remind me that.
For sure. So with Swahili, there's a couple of things. Like as an American, like black person, right? You don't really see a lot of black distance runners. Everybody just runs fast in a short distance, right? But then you look at the Kenyans, you look at like Ugandans, and like they're distance runners, right? Like it's crazy. I've never seen like black people run long. Honestly, I know that sounds crazy.
I never thought about that, but
yeah, like in America, you see people run fast. I said, you know, and so then I've been spending more time in like Arusha. So I have a friend that owns a coffee shop in Arusha, And then I have a friend named Key who I'm smiling right now because I love that guy so much. We went to Zanzibar together. It was his first time in Zanzibar as well. He's from Tanzania, and such a great experience. But he has like some land there and like really good family ties. He's like probably has one of the best characters I've ever seen in any human as well. And so I'm like, man, there's like so much opportunity in Africa. But like, I don't like going to countries for long periods of time if I can't speak the language, because I think I have a deeper understanding of the culture. And then I think it also just hopefully shows people a bit more gratitude of like an appreciation of like why I'm actually there. And then there's a guy in his name is Moses in Nairobi, but in this area called Kibera, which is like a slum in Nairobi. And so
hi there, I hope you're enjoying this episode. You can listen to the full audio version for free on your favorite podcast app. And if you are enjoying this video version, I invite you to join my exclusive Patreon community to support the making of the show and to unlock a ton of exclusive content, such as the full video episodes, bloopers, some controversial topics, and more personal questions from the guests, and much more. Link is in the description below.